One of my very first memories is the aroma of Grandpa's raveled sleeve, the sleeve of the wool sweater he liked to wear so much. My granny was knitting all the time, so I figured she'd knit that sweater for him years before. The sleeve smelled lovely. Tobacco. And I'd stick my face in the sleeve and breathe deep. Very first nicotine. It wasn't only Grandpa who smoked. My father smoked. All my uncles smoked. The man next door smoked. The bread man smoked. The milkman smoked. The iceman smoked. The mailman, the coal man, the grocery man, the vegetable man, they all smoked. The man who owned the candy store, he smoked. The door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman smoked. We Depression babies came into the world in tobacco smoke. I wonder if the doctor at the Grace Hospital on Wellington Street who delivered me was smoking a cigarette at the time. I know for sure, though, that his nurse wasn't. Women didn't smoke, at least not in my early world. I'm sure that the first female I ever saw lighting up was in the movies, but that was later. In the fall of 1939, to celebrate the declaration of war, I tried smoking some dried elm leaves and threw up on our cat. A bad start. In Liberty magazine, handsome doctors smoked. There were colored pictures of the doctors in their white smocks and their stethoscopes looking right out at you while they smoked. They liked smoking, you could tell. And it was good for their throats. There were pictures of their esophagi. They looked healthy and clean, like the doctors. Smoking was good for you. 9 out of 10 of them said so. Up at the farm where I spent all my summers, all the men smoked. Like my father, they rolled their own. Their fingers and their teeth were brown. Not easy to work at farming and smoke at the same time, but they tried their best. You shouldn't, for instance, try to fork dry hay while you're smoking. But you can stook grain while you smoke. You can mow barley, you can feed chickens, calves, pigs while you smoke. You can fix a fence, split wood, fork manure, set a saw, sharpen an axe, sit in the outhouse all while you're smoking. The kids on the farm all smoked too, even the younger ones, although they weren't supposed to. And they would in turn sometimes give the toddlers who were standing around a drag or two if nobody was watching. My father told me that even the infants, after a good snack at their mother's teats, would relax with a cigarette after. My father sometimes exaggerated. I didn't believe him for a minute when he told me that many babies were born on the surrounding farms with nicotine-stained fingers. Back in the city at the movies, the theater was full of smoke. Above you, the beam from the projector shimmered in a moving fog. And on the screen, they all smoked. Hedy Lamarr, Veronica Lake, Lauren Bacall, Barbara Stanwyck, Ida Lupino, Jane Russell, Betty Davis, and dozens more of those sexy dames smoked. And of course, Clark Gable smoked, and Gary Cooper smoked, and Robert Mitchum smoked, and John Garfield and Edward G. Robinson and Richard Widmark and John Wayne and dozens more sexy, tough guys smoked. Even Bugs Bunny smoked from time to time. But it was Humphrey Bogart who got this depression baby started smoking. Nobody smoked like Bogey. The close-ups of his wet lower lip on the cigarette paper, the way he breathed in the smoke and then let it slowly float out of his mouth and curl from his nostrils to bring balm to his beleaguered, noble and weary mug. Oh, what I would have given to be like that school of hard knocks, beaten down but unbowed streetwise man. When Bogey died in 1957, we depression babies were between 18 and 28 years old. It was throat cancer that brought him down. To try and save him, they carved out his esophagus. Then they cut out 2 lymph nodes. And then the handsome doctors sawed out several ribs. And always the tough guy on his deathbed, it is said, he said, I should never have switched from scotch to martinis. Ha ha. That was a good one, Bogey. His corpse weighed less than 70 pounds. We missed him, but we hardly noticed what killed him. Meanwhile, we were doing 2, sometimes 3 packs a day. I personally switched from the pretty blue and white box of Players Plain, fine cut, with the bearded sailor in the porthole on the upper right corner, to Black Cat Cork Tip. And then on to Craven A, king size. My wife and I both smoked Craven A by the carton. We filled our house with smoke. Ashtrays on every table. When you opened the windows, from the street it looked like the house was on fire. We provided enough secondhand smoke to kill both our kids and all their friends. Fortunately, they lived. Many of our generation have quit. And when we see the Generation Ys and even some of the Generation Zs lighting up, we feel sad. We want to tell them, but we can't. They wouldn't listen anyway. Why would they? We didn't. I still crave a Craven A now and then. Not long ago in an airport, I gazed at a monster mural of a cigarette above me as I rode down a very long escalator. The cigarette must have been 4 to 5 meters in length. It was round and firm and fully packed, and sweet aromatic smoke was love-locked in there from end to end. The weed has not touched these lips for over a quarter of a century, but I could savor all the way down that damn escalator the bouquet of my grandpa's sleeve. No.
Seeing you holding the book, I'm thinking about some of the, you've written, several books, but one of the things that you talked that you always wanted to do was write your memoir. And I've heard that you've struggled with that, and your longtime literary editor suggested maybe abandoning that idea. And instead, the ebook came about.
Yeah.
So
memoirs are hard to do because it's like looking in a mirror. And if you look in a mirror long enough, you present the face that you want to see. And that's difficult, and a lot of memoirs are failures because of that, because you get too self-conscious. We all experience encountering a reflection that we don't expect. You run across a mirror that you didn't know was there, and you see yourself as you really are, and it's a shock. It's not what you like to prepare yourself to see when you look in your own familiar mirror. And memoir is like that. And so my attempts, and I worked for quite a while on it, failed for that reason, Janet, because I just had trouble telling the truth.
What do you mean by that? We're not reading the truth.
But I've written a lot. I've been writing all my life, and every writer needs an editor. And I've had many editors, and some of them helpful, some of them useless. The best editor I ever had is Doug Fisher, who works at the Ottawa Citizen. Yeah. He crafted a perfect union between my intentions and these essays in this book with the Citizen's mandate as a family newspaper. He was fair, honest, tough, became almost immediately a partner. Very soon it became natural for me to call them our pieces, not my pieces. Fine writer he is too, and a masterful editor. And he's going to retire soon, I think, and I hope he begins to write full time. And I officially offer myself to him as his editor. Thank you, Doug.